you so much for being. Yeah, if you have any additional notes on my presentation, please go ahead. I know you are kind of experts in this paper as well. So today I'm going to present this paper about an artificial intelligence powered 3D analysis of video-based caregiver-child interactions. The name of this model is Harmony. And some of us are quite interested in using this, particularly in the lab, Katie and I, but of course our friends from Netherlands are also using this model for their analysis. As a very quick introduction, I think this point quite of us have used in our papers or have seen a lot around. We know that examining the behavior of infants and children in general, like interaction, is key for understanding the effects that this has on their development. And we also know that in the developmental science, we have used all the available methods to try and respect this in a very moment by moment way, but we have a lot of challenges by doing so because of the development of technology, even if some of the solutions that we have for this is artificial intelligence based kind of models, which could be based on 2D computational visuals or automated 3D analysis. But the main research we have is manual video coding, which could be time intensive and costly. So thinking about this, which I said is a point that all of us have seen a lot, this group of researchers come from with this idea of merging what we already have in terms of audio analysis, which is the ALICE and the VTC. Marvin presented this a few time ago. And they also make it multimodal by having the option to go with 3D meshes from the videos we have. And I'm going to explain this, but this is especially important for us because we study naturalistic environments, and we know that maybe in lab settings it's easier to use this kind of 3D meshes, but of course in the naturalistic settings could be more challenging. Okay, so Harmony, how it works. How it operates, as I said, is an automated 3D mesh reconstruction. And for this is for the video, and for the audio, it uses ALICE with the VTC, which is Marvin's model, and VVX. I'm going to explain more about this in a moment. It operates at sub-second temporary resolution, and it adapts to natural unstructured environments like homes without extensive manual labeling, which is great progress for our kind of analysis. And it could analyze a lot, like a variety of features. Actually, one of the things we were thinking is at some point we should make a meeting with the whole team and brainstorm about what other features we can use using this kind of models. But the authors here, after doing a review, they decided to go with these ones for validating the model and also to show to the scientific community what it could be done with Harmony. They use movement and body pose, touch interactions, field of view, which is visibility, distance traverse, caregiver-child proximity, and from the audio features, they have child-initiated conversations, conversational tone counts, and adult speech counts. I'm going to explain how they define each of them in a moment. Okay, so for validating Harmony, they use two data sets, seedlings, which is more naturalistic. It's from a home environment. They use around 500 hours of interaction videos recorded monthly between the 6 and the 7 months of age of the babies within a week of their birthday each month. This means that after the babies had 6, 7, 8, up to 17, within that first week, they made the recordings. In total, they had 44 children and caregivers, predominantly white, middle-class families, with two from the 44 families, two identified as mixed race, one as Latino, and all children were exposed to English at home, which is important considering, well, the VTC has used different languages, but as Marvin explained in one of his presentations, it's very efficient with English. And the other data set is CMU panoptic toddlers. This is a very clean motion capture data because it's in the lab setting, so it's kind of ideal. And of course, they use this trying to show the different like how the model will respond with these kind of ideal scenarios. It features a 2-year-old Asian toddler, so it's just one participant, but through 10 different like settings. I'm going to explain more about this in a moment.
So how do they use that? They use the motion capture stuff to check how do they use that to check the validity of the home environment recording?
No, it's like because it's like a more clean space and it has the static camera super well positioned.
Yeah.
Then they said like this is the ideal kind of data you will have. The motion capture, they didn't use motion capture to validate it. Like of course they like do the 3D meshes and based on that they analyze motion, but the camera itself didn't have any kind of motion
capture. So they use that to train
and then
toolboxes which work on the interaction.
Yeah. And I'm going to explain this in detail.
Okay. And are you going to explain where the cameras were located?
They didn't say that, but we know that, for example, with seedlings, they have different cameras when some of them were positioned like around the space in the home. Others were like but they only use the ones that were like observing as a third party. So the ones that were static in the home.
Yeah.
Do you know any like fisheye distortion? Do they talk about this?
They didn't mention that, but yeah, I was thinking about that because Emmanuel actually told Katie and I that could be a big issue. And I didn't found the model of the camera using each data set. Yeah.
And Francesca and Calliope, when you were over last week, we talked about this, but I can't remember what you said. So we were talking about the advantages of filming interactions in home settings from complementary angles. Yeah. So you can see, because then you're more likely to get the face in at least one of the cameras at once. But I can't remember that's not something that they built into this as well. So that would be quite a substantial bolt-on. Or you could use it to classify where each one is individually looking and then write some separate code to say, are they looking at each other?
Go.
No, you go.
Okay. For example, they just used one camera, okay, but basically, I think it's something that then Maria will explain in details later. But I think
Sorry, Maria.
based on the simply based on the reconstruction of the 3D figures, then with just one camera, they measured, for example, the gaze exchange between each other, the gaze of like one parent facing the child, but the child doesn't face the parent, or vice versa, or both of gaze in another direction, for example. So they use just one camera, and I think the idea of using more cameras in a naturalistic settings, like we will do, is to like run Harmony on the two different videos, and then kind of validate, maybe, for example, have a more precise measure of the gaze or proximity, these kind of things, but separately analyzing videos, so coming from different cameras.
Yeah, just one small comment on that. They didn't use direct gaze. They used the field of view. So essentially, they calculated the field of view of the parent and the infant, and then they made judgments based on whether the infant is within the field of view of the caregiver is within the field of view of the infant, or they're on each other's fields of views. So they didn't extract gaze direction or gaze exchange in a very specific way, But yeah, I think that during the meeting that we had last week, we essentially said something about calculating this gaze exchange in the means of out of all the times that we had the chance to observe mutual gaze exchange, how many times this gaze was mutual, something like that. That's what I remember, if I can
So
collect.
that would be quite straightforward from what you're saying. If you run Harmony on 2 separate camera footages, and then you just get a column, is the baby within the field of view of the mum, and then separately from the thing. So it would be quite easy to integrate them.
Yes, but on the other hand, based on our latest experience on the home that we installed the cameras, like the only family actually that participated, we had to install 3 cameras in the living room because the setup was such that we could not just rely on 2. So we had to have 3. So there might be the chances that we will have a very clear idea of what the gaze exchanges in specific rooms, but not in others. But I think that this is all part of the compromise that we need to make in order to get the most out of our observations.
Okay.
So it's also context.
Maria's got a question you were
specific
going to
to
go
an
into.
Yeah, I was going to.
Oh, sorry, Maria.
It's okay. No, it's fine. I guess the only thing that we can do is like go super precisely of what the participants are looking at. Like for example, what Marta did. Of course, we will not be able to have this with Harmony. We can only have like objects that are in the field of view. So that's something to have into consideration. And also, Harmony is not detecting objects at the moment, but the author said that a future kind of plan is to also work with this because that will expand the kind of research that we can do with objects, for example, for kind of studies. So, okay, so how Harmony extracts the 3D meshes in the video, there's 4 steps. First, it detects and tracks like bodies using very few, like just a few features. Once the bodies are like identified in the frames, the model classifies them as child or adult using just sorry. In the first, they just localize the bodies. Then, using few child. In the third step, it used 2 models, the SMIL or SMIL, I don't know how it's pronounced, model for children, and the SMPL model for adults. And basically using deep neural network, the parameters corresponding to the respective body model to each detected human is estimated, so they kind of complete the shape of the body. For this, they use TD vector for body shape for features like the height, for example, 7.2D vector for the 3D body joint location, so all the joints for movement and position, and 6D vector for camera parameters. That's how you can decide from which perspective to look at the, meshes or 3D dolls, because it's all the possible like rotations of the camera in the space. And then as a 4th step, it uses an optimization algorithm to refine estimated body parameters based on physical flexibility constraints, such as adjusting the body to be above the ground plane and smoothing prediction across frames. I'm going to explain this if we have time because it's one of my optional slides at the end. But what they do is basically put the meshes on the ground plane to locate them in space. Otherwise, they will be like floating basically. So it's like put a floor for these like 3D meshes. Okay, then these 2 things I want to explain first because we will be seeing some results using visibility and touch, and I wanted everyone to be super clear on how they determine this. For the visibility, as Calliope explained, they use a 180-degree kind of, imagine like creating a transparent wall, like a triangle, from using the ear and neck distance from left to right. And that is accounted as the field of vision or the visibility. And yeah, that's how they account for view. And yeah,
Do they say anything about if it how well it copes with more than when the number of people in frame goes in and out, and whether it's the same person or not coming back? Because that's Tom. Where's Tom Devon? Is he in the room? Tom Devon, are you? Oh hi. Because you
I'm in
said
the room.
you're in a different room. You're in the Zoom room. Because you were saying with the one that you were using, it's not very good at that, and it would jump. What was the one that you were using? I can't remember.
Oh, this was kind of a different thing. So this wasn't field of view tracking. It was just pose estimation.
Yeah, I know. But
Post
what was? Yeah, but it was jump. It wasn't very good at when one person comes in and out of the room. You said it was misclassifying person A as person B, and then it was jumping.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a general problem with tracking persistent objects between frames. So typically, like, I don't know, if you have two objects and they're moving around, it will notice that they're the same object for some period of time, and then it will reassign a new ID to it because it
Yeah,
sort of loses that it's that object.
yeah. They didn't say anything about that really.
no, the only thing they do in the pre-processing stage is like, and the model does this automatically, like they decide if there are third parties, they just decide not to make the 3D meshes of them. So then they will only account the other social partner that is participating in the study if it's in the visual field. That's all. But it seems to work pretty well. I'm gonna show
Well,
the
yeah. Okay.
but yeah,
Yeah, I mean, oh, sorry.
and remember they don't do the meshes for objects yet. So if you're working with objects, it's gonna be possible.
I suppose Francesca and Calliope, one of the things that we could do is if we do this speaker diarization, that we think works, the Hervé Prédin stuff, and then you can look at, okay, now the speaker diarization, which has been trained to work with multiple people. So for people at home, this is Francesca and Calliope, we're doing the project with attachment where we're taking a lot of these things, and the main interest obviously is the child to the kind of the caregivers, but then there will, because it's just a living room and long observations, there will be other people just walking in and out of the room. So we can use the speaker diarization to get a reliable estimate of who's where, as long as they're talking. And if there's someone that we don't recognize in the room, then we tell Harmony that there's
But you can also just go ahead and make the 3D image of a third party. Like you can do 3D images of all the participants in a classroom, for example.
using Harmony.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said it only takes two.
For these,
okay.
for the purpose of this study, they were interested just in baby mom interactions. But then if you want to do 3D images for other people.
But I doubt it will do diarization, so it will tell you who that person is. I suppose you could just have to integrate it.
Yeah, they use the VTC and the VVX for doing diarization, so they kind of use
Oh,
both
sorry.
measures
Yeah, you did say that.
because this is audio as well. So yeah, you can.
Oh,
also
good.
use-
Okay, so that's already built in then, guys.
Yeah, I think they.
So you did mention they were using the VTC.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and for the touch, when Harmony detects both caregiver and child in the frame, it goes ahead and determine the touching using two thresholds. The first is in the 2D dimension, and then the second is in the 3D dimension. If both are checked, then it assumes touch happened. In the 2D dimensions, where bodies are very close together, less than 3% of the image height, then it's the first check. And in the 3D dimension, they check the model check if they are closer than 25 centimeters. Then they say, okay, it's physical contact is happening.
25 centimeters seems
a lot. Yeah.
So are they not so confident about the estimate, especially in 3D? Do they say why 25?
They didn't say why, not in the discussion. Yeah, but I noticed that as well.
Is that measured from the closest body parts or just from the center of each model?
I don't know, from the meshes. So it could be like hand to hand, or it could be like like foot to hand, or like any kind of, But of course, for the purpose of this, it was hand. But not from them. Does that?
Yeah.
And do they say how they get the 3D coordinates with one camera?
No, right. Do you Yeah, no.
I think that what they say is that they trained the mess creator with videos, public videos from the streets, from like just a lot of people. But let me just
Yeah, they use this open source, but then they said we knew this was not perfect. But that was for the settings, right? For the home messy settings more than for the actual meshes. Yeah, but they use open source data for that. Okay. So now I'm gonna present some of the results they got from these different measures. Not just visibility and touch. Those are the ones that I wanted to explain because we're a bit more complex, but also like the distance traversed and the position and what I will. Do you see that well? Yeah. So here in the first plot, we can see the distance traversed by the children, the children in the room over development. So and this in the second plot we can see the same, but for the caregiver. And yeah, I guess we can see how this is in meters, by the way, so it's the distance in meters. And yeah, here we can see like how for the case of the child, the distance traversed increase, and for the case of the caregiver, doesn't very much. It's something it decreased. The third plot, this one here, shows an example of one dyad movement, the movement trajectory in the 3D space during the recording period. So it's not just in the Z axis, it also shows using the distance from the hip joint. Is this the hip? Yeah, hip joint to show like where they were in the up to down space. In the fourth plot, we can see like the percentage of time they were in a specific position. Remember, we had I don't think I explained this. Sorry. We had 4 positions, or they grouped the position in 4 categories: upright, seated, prone, and supine. Sorry. And as we can see here, the children mainly were upright. Over development, like in every time point, this was true. And the second most common position was standard. Just so you know, what they did here is delete all the data that was not clear because of different reasons, like maybe the model didn't make a mistake or didn't recognize the parts of the body, so they delete all the data that could like bias these.
So
You want to say
what?
6 months to be upright, it's a lot, no? I mean,
Yeah, these look quite different.
These-
Who presented the Manu's one with the classifier with the body position?
That was me.
Sorry. Yeah, you have a reply. Sorry, Maria.
Oh, sorry.
Then Maria wants
It's
to answer.
same as I said before, they are not accounting for objects. So in this case, they said we have no way to know if they were using like a table to stand or a baby, what's the name of that thing, the baby? Yeah, like
Yeah.
walkers. Yeah, or
Yeah.
how they were.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, it does look different, Tom, to that. I just was trying to put up, I haven't got that paper saved. Do you remember Manu's paper, which was doing the automatic movement classification of the arm and the leg? And it had the plots of how the diff changes and position change over time, and it looked different to that. One worry is that they don't, and again, Francesca and Calliope, we were talking about this last week. It worries me they don't have a carrying category, because I would have thought 6-month-olds would spend a fair amount of time being carried. And I'm just worried that that's just because it can't classify well. I mean, we were talking when you came over about that there are so many different ways of carrying a baby, and we were talking about differentiating between, the different ways of carrying, because I think that's important too. But, they don't have a carrying category at all here.
Yeah, they don't.
the just one little thing, because actually in our reading club yesterday we had a discussion about caring specifically. Like for us, we don't know to what extent that would be informative, because holding a baby, like carrying a baby, is not enough to like fulfill this like bonding procedure. Like doesn't mean much if you're just holding the baby. So I don't know if that would be much of a problem for us.
I guess.
no, I think
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Trin's being polite and waiting until.
Oh,
I think no,
No,
it's my fault.
I
Sorry,
have
Kelly,
another
if you ask it.
question, so go ahead.
All right, okay. Let's just finish. I mean, yeah, but I feel we need that as a category, even if it's not that important.
I think the issue. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, say Tom.
Well, I think the issue. So the reason that was, probably it's important here too. I agree, but the reason that Manu did it, with the posture classifier, so he had a jumpsuit with accelerometers in, and they estimated body position from that, was simply that you can't accurately gauge body position. Like it's kind of meaningless if the infant is being carried. And so you have to have a classifier that excludes frames or samples where the infant is being carried, simply because it's not really a posture. And you could then use those frames, I agree, for some interesting bonding work. But the point is not that like it's an interesting category scientifically. It's that if you want to look at body position, it's completely screwed up if you include carrying. So this is why,
I think what we'll probably do, guys, is because we can easily classify that because we've got the parent-child proximity, and we've got they're both wearing an actigraph, these multiple actigraphs. So what we'll probably, I guess, what we'll probably do, Francesco and Calliope, is end up classifying the position just off Manu's classifiers, because it's free and it's just a toolbox and he'll run it. And then we can do, the gaze estimation of Harmony. So we'll just do both and take what works best for both, maybe.
I guess you can have an estimation of where we give you the Y and Z position, like, right?
Well, it must not work. I mean, I guess it doesn't work with this mesh estimation.
I mean, we could even use this and just use, so we already have a carrying classifier. I think the carrying classifier is kind of easier to train ourselves. We use our own system for taking out carrying, and we use this for all the other post detection. We don't use Manu's. So that's also.
I think also one of the ideas was also to use Harmony in this case, in this sense, as a cross-validation method. So like also kind of cross-validating, for example, the measures coming from the accelerometers with the measures coming from Harmony.
Trin?
Yeah, I have a question on the precision of child and caregiver movement in 3D space, because here they only plot one dimension. So do you have any further information about like how the post estimation works?
Yeah, I'm gonna show that in a minute, like the precision recall. But you're right in one thing, like for localizing the child on the children, of course, comparing with manual annotations, they had to use the 2D representation because it's difficult to manual annotate in 3D space. They just use the 3D annotations for doing the precision and recall for the other measures like the visual field and the touch. But yeah, I'm gonna present that in a second.
Okay.
So for the next set of plots in the plot A, well, this is in an hour-long recording. They used like a set of an hour recording for this specific plot. And basically they see the percentage of time when the mom and the caregiver and the baby were touching each other over development. So we can see it in generally decrease. Then using four annotations for the coding of the visibility. Caregiver and child are each other in. Caregiver and the first one, the blue one, is caregiver and child are in each other field of vision. The second one is child is in the visual range of caregiver, but not vice versa. The third one is caregiver is in the visual range of child, but not vice versa. And the last one is neither, when we can't see the baby or the adult, so we can't know what's in the visual. Basically,
So how? Because the examples are where they're both side onto the camera, which by the law of averages is going to be a relatively small percentage of the time, So surely most of the time, one of them has got their back to the camera or the other. Yeah.
Yeah.
So can they still do pose estimation when I've got my back to the camera?
Yeah, because remember you do like, that's why how the 3D meshes help. Because they can say where
Just
your
do-
face is
okay.
facing at,
Well-
and then getting the 3D, the 180 frame.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So Francesca, in that case, I was talking about it just then. We don't need last week, and we don't need multiple cameras in each room. What? Because that's the only reason that I think we need multiple cameras in each room. I haven't really thought about that, because if it's 3D and they're just doing it relatively coarsely, I suppose we still need the facial expressions. So we still need reciprocal smiling and things like that, and we won't be able to tell if they're smiling or not from the back of their head, but we will be able to tell where they're looking.
Sorry, I didn't follow the entire question. Can you?
So when in a meeting last week, we were talking about having multiple angles, yeah. And what I hadn't really appreciated from this is that to the level of accuracy that they're looking at here, yeah, you can tell where someone's looking, even if you've only got the back of my head, yeah. If I'm looking over here, they can estimate accurately enough from the position of my head whether someone's in my field of view or not, yeah. So we can do are they in mutual gaze or not, even if we've only got one camera per room, yeah. But what we can't do is mutual smiling, yeah, reciprocal smiling, yeah, because we can't tell the facial expression. So we do want to know that, yeah. But we can do the amount of time in mutual gaze, even if we do have one camera in each room.
Yeah, what I think you said it right, except that we actually won't have any even the mutual gaze, because we will have the mutual field of view that is different from the mutual gaze.
Yeah.
And yes, for the rest, exactly, we don't have the mutual smiling with harmony.
Yeah.
So 180 is like that.
Yeah, of course, because
So is a 6-month-old's vision, they can have peripheral vision as well.
So it was usable field of view is 170, so I can tell like it loses accuracy.
Well, even a 6-month-old.
Yeah, look, just look.
Yeah,
straightforward.
I can.
Yeah, look. Oh, I see.
I
So
see,
how does
yeah.
it change over?
Yeah,
time?
because like obviously vision develops.
Yeah, I don't know. Didn't you do your master's in this? No.
Not on peripheral vision.
Oh, not
with
in
6
peripheral
months
vision. Oh,
old.
okay, fine. I don't know. Does anyone know?
fine, maybe.
What I think it's the fovea that becomes sharper over development. I mean, I kind of did my master's on this a little bit, not on vision as such, and the impression I got was that the fovea matured over development, but I don't know if the visual angle did. I didn't see anything about that changing.
Okay. And when they're lying on their back, like what is it like 180?
Same,
that
because
far?
if you're like this, you can do this.
No,
It's
but
just
like
based on the-
I mean, I didn't do my master's exactly on this, but on my computer vision, and
I think we come to none of us did.
Like, you understand.
but like you could set a precision recall of whether in each other child of vision if you had like collected yes no data, and then you set the angle, you know, the child and the caregiver independently, and you see for which angle you get the best precision recall. So you could set that the cone of vision as a parameter, and then you would have like
So
neurons to change.
precision and recall for what?
But were they actually in each other's field of view, or like looking at each other even? Just what I mean.
Yeah, I do. So
We have
based
this
on
in
that, based on the fact that the mesh is going to be quite inaccurate. Yeah. Yeah.
Like you would
Okay.
code when they're actually looking at each other.
Yeah.
You would get yes, no. You would compute the angle at which it worked. You would change the angle and see
Yeah.
when you get best.
Yeah.
precision recall.
Does that sounds like quite a good idea, Francesca and Felipe? Yeah. Did you catch that?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
hear
So
us.
Pierre's saying that there will be some inaccuracy in the mesh estimation, obviously. Yeah. And then, it will probably be a user definable parameter to say what is the size of the cone it's drawing. Yeah. Is it drawing a 180 field of view, which Tilly's been questioning and saying is probably inaccurate? Yeah. but it based on her.
I'm never going to speak. I'm reading again.
No, it's a good point. It is a good point. No, it isn't. But the reason they'll have set it that wide, even though it's wider than we can actually see, it was actually genuinely a good point, Tilly. The reason they'll have set it that wide is because there's an error in how well the mesh is being fitted. Yeah. So they've set it wider than is actually true to accommodate for the fact that there's an error in the actual position. Yeah. So what Pierre is saying that we can do is we can go and we can hand code, yeah, whether they're actually in mutual gaze or not. Yeah. And then we can set up this Harmony automatic classification of whether they're in mutual gaze. And we can vary the size of the cone that Harmony's using. Yeah. And we can find, okay, at what size of cone do we get the closest agreement between Harmony and the hand coding? Yeah. So where do we best put the trade-off between the inaccuracies of Harmony, which is never going to be perfect, and this additional inaccuracy that we're bringing in to compensate for the inaccuracy of the mesh fitting, which is we're setting a wilder field of view. Yeah, that's quite a nice idea.
That's very interesting, yeah. And what I was thinking is that now that you brought this up, we will also have the videos, the raw videos. So we can feed them into Harmony, yes, but we can also just extract mutual gaze or gaze direction to the extent that we can, just based on the videos without using Harmony, right? So we can also use that as a procedure to adjust what Harmony is.
So I didn't follow that. What are we comparing with what then?
Sorry?
What are you suggesting we compare with what then? So we've got the videos in Harmony. Are we comparing it with something else or what?
Yes, like we have the raw videos and then we process them through Harmony. So Harmony extracts all the features all at once with this combined broad code that they're using. But then we can also use this raw material to use, let's say, isolated software to extract just gaze based on the cameras, not using the meshes or anything, just with the raw videos. So we can also get an estimate of like mutual gaze exchange or being in the field of view or not based on this information too, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's computationally more expensive, but also hand coding could be time expensive. I don't know, but just a thought. It's a really nice idea. It was a very, very nice idea.
Yeah, good. Candice has put something in the
It
chat.
doesn't mature till 5 years.
What? You read it to them. It doesn't. Okay. Okay. No. Come on, you read out your vindication. Come on. You're right then.
Yeah, no.
All right, read it out then. Come on.
Maturation of peripheral vision has been reported to occur as young as 5 years and as old as 13 years of age, with a range of peripheral vision maturities reported between these ages.
Very good. Tom, you got your hand up.
Yeah, there's just a couple of things that I thought of about this. And the first, I don't know if this is sort of too small scale, but I read a really interesting paper today about there being like not an advantage to task performance in discrimination tasks when fixations go up in the visual field. So it seems as if there's some versus other directions. So it seems as if maybe that's sort of, there's some difference in sort of cognitive implications of saccades that go up in the visual field, which I'm explaining really badly. But it strikes me, I guess, that the child is going to be saccading up much more in mutual gaze versus the caregiver. And I wonder if that has any implications for like cognition. But then also the sort of actual point that I have, I guess, is that I went to a seminar today by a chimp researcher, and she had the same problem, that face turning towards somebody is not the same as eye movement towards them, and that they sort of had to use face turning because chimps, you can't see where chimps are fixating. But they did see in the human sample like times where their face was pointing one way and their eyes were pointing another. And in this case, we wouldn't pick up on that.
Yeah, that's interesting. And also because this again is using the field of view, not even the movement. I guess the movement of the head, but you know, in the whole field of view. And I guess what you said also is could be like, yeah, addressed by having this optimal phone and do what Sam suggested. Yeah. Okay. So
Can I ask questions really
yeah,
quick? You know, if you have like this run on multiple videos, what do you just in the end average them, or do you have some clever way of like choosing which camera you'll got the superior shot at what time?
I mean, they use one camera per.
No, but we're
per
saying
budget.
that you're going to use multiple cameras. Right?
Oh, what did you ask? Sorry, then.
Well, it's
So-
more of a Francescan question.
No.
So how- when-
you're not going to plan to.
I mean,
We-
have
we
we,
usually
are
have-
we getting on to other stuff? The question, did you hear that, Francescan? The question is, when we're getting mutual gaze, presence or absence, estimated of multiple cameras at once, how do we decide which one to trust? But is there quite a lot to get to? Because we need to think about that. But we've got 15 minutes left, and have you prepared a lot of other stuff? Right. You've done a really thorough presentation. Have you got a lot more stuff to get to?
Yeah.
All right, maybe come
Okay.
back to that. It's a good question, though, right?
But you were asking more of how they do it, right?
No,
I was
because
just wondering, I thought you were going to have this run on like head cameras and but maybe in
Probably,
the
yeah.
yeah.
But we should have a chat with them. If I can come to that meeting, because that will be useful for me and Kate.
sure, yeah.
Okay, so in the last plot here, we can see the distance decrease from the first visit. Sorry, no, that no, I finished it. Sorry, I finished this. Here we go. Okay. So here we have multimodal audio-visual interactions using, remember all these results is using the first data set, which is the seedlings at home. And in the first plot, what they do is in a 1 hour video, they've broken it into minutes. What Harmony did was make one prediction every second, and then like they by a minute. So if you see this here, we have 60 chunks of 1 minute. And high value will be yellow, low values will be like more purple, and a high value will indicate that the predictions within that minute are mostly positive, meaning that the behavior or the behavior that we are observing in each of the lines occurs. In this figure here for B, the amount of time in seconds, the child is engaged like in a self-initiated conversational turn. So it's like when a child starts a conversation, how much that conversation lasts, basically. And it is binned by the child distance traverses in meters. So what they find is that when child spend more time in a conversation that they initiated, then they also move more. And this could be done, we were talking with Katie before, and this could be done because maybe they are more engaged in playing, but this was not the case for the caregivers. And then in the last one, in the last plot, we can see that especially for 3 families, this effect was more like there. We have the child distance traverses in meters in the XY axis, and in the Y axis we have the other way around. In the Y axis and in the X axis we have the amount of time that in seconds that the child spent in a conversation that they started. This was interesting because they also did the analysis for the families that had like the effect the most in these cases.
So what they didn't do your analysis, Narain. Are you there, Narain? About Narain's been doing some stuff about proximity and contingency. They could easily have done that from there.
Yeah. Sorry,
Like
was
some-
that clear? Okay. Sorry, anyone has a question? No? And then this is what Trin was asking about the harmony consistency with human annotation. What they did was evaluate the accuracy of their meshes using the 2D representations to compare them with the 2D annotations of two independent annotators. For the using the 2D representations, they annotate on the location of the 23 major body joints. So that's what the annotators do. And then using the 3D meshes, they compare the annotations of the different measures of visibility, touch, and body pose. Yeah, they only use the annotations where both annotators agreed on, which was the 92% of the total frames that they annotated. Of course, remember we had it like two different data sets, so I'm going to explain the consistency for each of them. In the seedlings ones, which is the one of the homes, a total of 1,400 video frames were annotated. They selected 3 frames randomly from each video they had. Using the 2D based on the 2D representations, the consistency with the manual annotation was 63.8% and 80%.
So manual
Use-
annotation of
Sorry?
what? Sorry.
Oh, in this case is of just the correct key points of the movement, of the joint movement. This is what they use for the with the 2D representation. For children and caregivers, respectively, they said that working with adults is always easier, and in general, it shows like bigger consistency around all these tests that they do for consistency.
But the key then is what the threshold was, yeah?
Sorry?
The key was how generous was their threshold. So did they say it's consistent if it's accurate to within a millimeter or to within a meter?
I
Yeah.
guess they, and yeah,
You don't know, they didn't say.
between the, so what they did is they annotated the movement of the 23, which they didn't say which were those, but the 23 major joints. And using the 2D representation, they compared to see what the human annotate.
Yeah, but then what was the threat? Doesn't matter.
Oh, that's.
I think it matters, Sam. Like I
Yeah.
wanted to ask the same question, like what is their
Okay.
precision? Like how many pixels,
Yeah.
how many millimeters, centimeters?
Yeah, no, this is something that it was not, please correct me if I'm mistake, Calliope and Francesca, but this is something that they didn't report. Yeah. And using the 3D meshes, they inspect the consistency of the other measures like touch and visibility. What they found is that the model human consistency for touch is 66.6% of the time. So 66.6% of the time they have a consistency. And for the visibility, 66.4% of the time. For ages 14 to 17 months, both consistencies increase. For the case of touch, the consistency rises to 75.3% and visibility to 71.2%. Although I found I was expecting to see the consistency for younger babies, but they just report this and said it increases. So they report the total and how it increases for the older babies, but we don't have the consistency for the younger babies, which I was expecting to find. Yeah, we didn't have.
So but on the touch thing, if they're scoring out all the times they're holding the baby, because guys, Francesca and Calliope, that the times you touch your baby like this, yeah, I'll probably, I would guess, a relatively small proportion of the time. A much more important aspect of touch is you carrying them around and you holding them in your arms. And as far as we can tell, they've just chucked all that data, yeah. Because they can't do it accurately because the meshes don't work very well when two bodies are intertwined. So my gut is we won't be using this touch. My gut is the only thing that we'll end up using from this is the gaze estimation, yeah, and that we'll end up doing the carrying of the sensors, the wearable sensors, and because the touch that they're looking at, they're basically saying the accuracy when they were within 25 centimeters was this, which is just not, we can be much more accurate with these other measures.
Yes, and I think that in that sense, again, proximity is a bit more informative for us, because holding a baby again doesn't mean that the reciprocity holds true also. Like it's not a given when you're holding your baby that this means that you're paying attention, that you are reciprocating anything. So it's a bit tricky. We had this discussion again yesterday. So I don't know if we will be very, like, it's nice to get as many data as we can, of course, but I don't know, and we don't know how informative it is for us to just count how many times they touched each other. But one thing that was a topic that was really discussed last Tuesday, and I just looked it up right now, is how they aggregated the outcome measures. So I see here that under figure 4, they what they say, I don't know, I think it's the footnote under it's the description actually. They say that for a single hour long video, they aggregated by minute, if I understand correctly.
Yeah.
That raised me like that brought again in my head all this aggregation questions that we had the other day, so that we make the results seem meaningful. And
yeah, that's a really good point, because a lot of the contingency, vocal contingency, as Narain's looking at, but also, touch, kind of reciprocal smiling and gaze contingencies on much far more fine-grained timescales than that. So what they say, it's got sub-second accuracy. I was going to ask when Maria said at the beginning it's got sub-second accuracy, I wanted to ask how sub-second, because a lot of gaze stuff, that fine-grained timescale is really important. But you're basically saying they're basically downsampling everything to a minute, but you can't tell reciprocal smiling on the timescale of a minute.
But you can play with it, right? Like that's what we were saying. It would be nice to have a brainstorming and see, like, using this tool, how we can adapt it to our own.
Yeah, I didn't realize, but Katie and Maria here are planning on using this to look at caregiver sensitivity. So yeah, we'll have to think about that really carefully. Yeah. Right, sorry, Maria, 3 minutes.
Oh, 3 minutes. Okay. Okay. Okay, yeah, I think it's well. So super quick, the precision recall for touch was 67% and 68% respectively, and for visibility 66% and 67%. And with the other data set, I'm going to explain how they do it super quick. They achieve a 97% for caregivers and a 74.3% of consistency for children. This is detecting them, and then 84% and 93% accuracy for touch and visibility respectively, and the precision recall was 93 and 93 for touch and 96 and 90 for visibility. I really like this plot here because they show how they came up with this and show some examples using the actual videos and the meshes, which is very cool to see. Although some images could be a bit fun, like the one here is like the mom is seated. Sorry, you can see my mouse, but the mom is seated on the table, which is not the case, so we can see that it's not perfect. And there was another one with a very weird. Oh yeah, this was not the one. Well, I found while I was reading the paper, like some that were very, very funny. I didn't have time. My plan was to show you those like funny ones at the end, but yeah, maybe for the next. So yeah, here basically we can see what I just explained in the previous slide, and here they compare like the annotations from the human and the Harmony, the model predictions on child and adult identification and touch and visibility. And we can see that in general, there's not much here except from 13 and 14 months, where we can see that the touch and visibility it's like very low. And they said that this could happen. Yeah, this could be because the video tends to contain captures with a lot of occlusions. So when the caregiver is in a corner of the room or is partially out of the frame, and therefore they think the accuracy for touch and visibility in the 13 and 14 months, it's slightly worse. Yeah, so I guess we won't have time for my extra slides, but super quick. The advantages, Harmony's mesh-based representations could be used to anonymize videos. This is very nice. The passivity sensitive data. It facilitates the expansion of the child development research across a larger and more diverse range of subjects. The model requires only standard video capture as an input, so that's a big improvement of what we are doing now. Easily obtainable from even a phone, so that's good. This approach is very flexible and can be used in different fields where human behavior analysis are needed. Also clinic efforts, so that's nice. And this I thought was an important point to do. They use 8 consumer-grade graphical processing units, so 8 GPUs. And basically they finish the whole analysis I show in 132 hours. Since Harmony can process frames much faster than humans, 0.25 seconds in comparison to humans, that is 5 seconds per frame. Using these multiple GPUs will be the recommendation here, and you will have your analysis 160 times faster than with human annotation.
Right.
And
Well done. Well done, Maria. That's pretty good. Yeah, well done. That was great. Fantastic. Right. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.